Wow. Wow. What an introduction. Am I right? That voice you heard, well, you heard both of our voices. The howl was my man, Eben Britton. What's up, dude?
Hey, my brother.
Not much. Hanging out here in the studio with Jed, our producer, and, of course, Gandalf, our trusty pit lying on the floor here listening to us. My name's Nate Jackson. This is another edition of The Mindful Warrior. We don't have a guest today. There's actually an earlier episode in which Eben interviews me, and I kind of give my story. But we haven't done that with Eb yet. And you guys know him a little bit from listening to this stuff, but we wanted to play a little game, a little Memento type of game. You guys seen that movie? They bounce around, different scenes,
memories,
different times. We're going to bounce around, Eb.
Okay.
First memory I want you to give me right now, your last football game you ever played. Go.
Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. I'm on the Chicago Bears. Freezing cold. We lost. Not a great last game to remember.
Why?
It was a bad year. It had been a sort of a sour year.
What was the weather like on that last game?
Gray, ice cold, Minnesota.
In Minnesota?
Yep, at the University of Minnesota, because their arena was under construction. So it was during this period where they played all their games at the University of Minnesota. That's where we played. It was cold as hell. The energy of the team was not great. The energy of the coaches was not great. Everyone was
Why? You guys were having a losing season?
It was a losing season. It was in many ways understood. Every coach was getting fired at the end of the year. There was going to be a lot of guys getting let go. It was the end of my contract, end of a year where, I had the disillusionment that had reached a pinnacle. Sometime
you were over it.
I was done.
And so was everyone else on the team, seemed like, because of a losing season.
Yeah.
So you knew it was the last game of the season, or was it?
It was the last game of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you knew going in that you might not be coming back to the Bears?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely knew that was a possibility. I hadn't.
Do you remember any specific plays from that game? Do you remember any moments on the field? Do you remember any kind of recollection of the end? Or was the realization that your football career was over, did that come way later? Was there a moment down the line?
Yeah,
when
that
happened,
realization came much later.
Right.
That
We're going to get into that in a little bit, but I'm going to jump back in time to the first time Eben Britton ever smoked weed.
First time I ever smoked weed, it was summer going into my junior year of high school. And
at John Burroughs High?
That's right, at John Burroughs High School.
Here in L.A.?
Here in Los Angeles, California, most specifically Burbank.
Yes.
Burbank's in the Valley, John Burroughs High School. Had a great rivalry with Burbank High there. So anyway, it's the
I always thought Burbank was where they kept cold money. Get it? Burbank.
Yeah, maybe. Nice. Really
That's
nice.
That's a dad joke,
yeah,
right? We were talking
good.
about that earlier. Sorry, go.
Yeah. Okay, so first time I ever smoked weed was well, let me preface how I got to the
So you're saying a doctor didn't give
weed.
it to you for the first time you ever did
I
it?
did not get it from a doctor.
This was done socially.
Yeah, socially. It was summer going into my junior year. It started out myself, and a bunch of guys from the team. I was on varsity as a sophomore, so I was going into my junior year, my second year on varsity. And we're in there lifting weights one hot summer day, and guys are talking about a party that's going on at one of the dudes' houses. And so I get invited to the party. I was kind of the big dude, the big kid,
the big fun, nice guy.
Yeah, right. That was me, man.
Had you already started drinking alcohol recreationally?
No, never.
Wow, really?
So this was the first time I drank.
So you experimented with cannabis prior to experimenting with the booze?
Well, this was the same night.
Same party.
Yeah, same party.
What a fucking party.
Yeah.
Okay,
and my
so-
experience was, I got to the party. Some guys were passing a little bowl, a little pipe around, a little bowl, and
What, glass, metal?
a glass,
That was glass.
little glass bowl.
Very cool.
You know, it was a dark backyard in Pacoima or something. Like
A
that.
dark backyard in Pacoima.
Yeah, dude. And you know, it was a great time. It was one of those kind of classic high school parties, I guess you could say. You know, cops got called at the end. There were some gunshots went off. That wasn't so cool.
At the party?
At the end, yeah.
That's a classic high school party. Gunshots go off.
Yeah,
You know,
that, until that.
Right.
That was sort of the bummer of the night. Yeah.
Remind me not to go to, what's it called? Pacoima? What is it?
Pacoima.
Pacoima. Stay out of Pacoima, man.
Yeah. And so it wasn't, I don't know that I experienced the full effects of the cannabis at that time.
No,
you know?
the first time you ever do it, you don't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know
You
the
know.
science behind it, but it has to be introduced to your system before you take it. Like, I don't know. I think it has to like kind of open up those cannabinoid receptors or knock a couple times and say, "Hey, man."
Yeah.
Because I didn't
And activate the endocannabinoid system.
I did not feel the effects the first 2 times
Yeah.
that I did at all. At all.
There were
So-
also some drinks that night.
Right,
and,
which also blurs all that,
yeah,
you know.
blurs it all. So
Interesting. So that was the
yeah.
first time.
yeah, it was a very social, very friendly environment. It was until, you know, some asshole had to pull a
his
gun out.
Yeah. Did anybody get shot?
No, everyone was safe, thankfully.
Everyone is safe, thankfully. You made it home and fell asleep. No, time portal. Now we're going to jump forward to the first football-related surgery.
First football-related surgery was
That you
my
ever had?
shoulder surgery, right shoulder.
Tell us about the shoulder.
So my shoulder since my freshman year of high school, so the first year I ever played football. I didn't start playing football until I was a freshman in high school at John Burroughs High. First year of football, my shoulder would subluxate throughout the football season, and what that means is it slides in and out of the socket. So it's essentially a dislocation that corrects itself immediately. So it would pop in and out of the socket, and it's extremely painful. Meanwhile, you know, stretching those tendons, shredding the cartilage of that labrum, you know, that I would later tear, which would be the reason for a full dislocation, which is what happened my second year in the NFL playing the Chiefs. Playing the Chiefs sometime in the, I don't know, second.
Your right tackle?
I'm right
Or, I'm
tackle.
sorry, and your right shoulder?
In my right shoulder.
Yeah, so he's on the right edge, and he's protecting that right edge with his right arm. And so all of his anchoring, all of his kind of momentum and energy is focused on using that right arm as a crane
Yeah.
and just
Exactly.
mashing people with it.
Yeah.
But hey,
And keeping people away, keeping
Turns
people
out-
far. Yeah.
turns out you're made of flesh and bone. And if you do that enough, shit's going to pop out.
Shit breaks down.
And was that during the season when you had this surgery?
Yeah, so the shoulder dislocates
With Jacksonville?
in Jacksonville.
Which year?
Dislocates, I pop it back in, finish the drive.
Warrior shit.
I come out, go to the sideline, get a sling put on it.
Fucking put a sling on it! Get me out there!
We go back out for a 2-minute drill before the half ends.
Let me ask you this, though. When you are in that state, you know, your shoulder falling off your body,
Yeah.
are you in pain?
No, I wasn't. You know, I was. It was something to deal with, and then something that was it was a hindrance to what I needed to do.
Right. You need to be on that field playing.
The pain didn't come until, you know, sitting on the bus and all that inflammation and that shit starts to settle into the joint.
I imagine that guy that you're just describing, that guy on the sidelines trying to get back on the field with his shoulder hanging off, is the same as this guy. I pulled this quote off the internet. I'm going to read it. And this was after the draft.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah.
You said, every team that passed on me is going to regret it for the rest of the history of the franchise. I was pissed off about not being drafted in the first round. I wouldn't call it disappointed. I'm angry, and the chip on my shoulder just got a little deeper. You know what? I'm going to work my ass off for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and people are going to regret it. I've got my own agenda, and that's first and foremost to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Super Bowl. Secondly, I'm going to be the greatest offensive tackle to ever play this game. That's badass.
Yeah.
I mean, and you believed it.
I did.
And we all, in our own way, believe that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what makes that game so exciting. That's what makes sports so exciting. Because on the outside, we rank them. You know, this guy was the best. This guy was the second best. This guy was the third best. But when you go out there and play, you think you're the best. You got to feel that way, and you want to dominate.
Yeah.
Everybody feels that. But at some point, the body breaks down, and you found yourself lying underneath a knife.
Yep.
They repaired the shoulder.
Shoulder surgery. Dr. Andrews flew to Alabama.
Great doctor.
My mom was there helping me through it. So, I had no
world-renowned surgeon.
Wife. Yeah, world-renowned Dr. Andrews. He was, this guy treats This guy treats
Sorry, man.
This guy treats world-class athletes from fucking Drew Brees to LeBron James.
It's a pretty steady job knowing that you treat athletes. They all just get hurt.
Dude, this guy is just nonstop.
Wow.
And he did an amazing job. He was super friendly, made me feel great about it, made me feel like I'd be back in no time. And really first class, you get put up in the hotel and all that shit, and then going into rehab.
Birmingham, right?
Birmingham, yeah.
You didn't stay at the Shoney's Inn, did you?
I'm not. No.
That's where I stayed for a month in Birmingham. When I got hurt in NFL Europe, they sent you to Birmingham to get ready or to get to rehab, and you got to stay there till you get cleared. Shoney's Inn was pretty bad. So you came up out of surgery. Did they give you pills?
They absolutely did.
Were you into pills at that point?
I was very. I had a very deep understanding of withdrawal symptoms before that from an experience with pills in high school, where I had actually surgery done, the dental surgery that you had.
Right.
I had that done, and I was given pills. I was given painkillers. And I was 16.
It's crazy.
16 years old. And I'm taking these pills.
Look at you. You're a huge, strong guy. They should not be giving big, strong dudes pain pills to deal with mouth surgeries. I just think that we can handle it. You could have taken the pain, right?
Yeah, I could have. Absolutely.
They're nice.
You can endure anything.
They're nice.
Sure.
But do we need them?
Dude, I took those things as prescribed because my mom took control of them and would give them to me, like every 3 hours or whatever it was.
So you had a good week.
Well, here was the thing. After like 2 days, I started waking up at, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I had this intense, sharp pain in my gut. It was like a knife twisting in my gut. Like the emptiness of space was in my gut. And like cold sweats and chills. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it was morning after morning, three mornings in a row. And I remember.
But meanwhile, you were still taking the prescribed medication.
I was taking them. I kept taking them.
First thing in the morning type of thing?
I can't remember. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't like you had that sensation, like, I need to get another pill in me.
No, I was like, what is going on? Why am I feeling this?
Did you equate it at the time with the pills?
Not until I started walking to. I remember the morning walking to my mom's car to drive to school, and thinking, oh, that's withdrawal symptoms. Mm. I'm withdrawing from the pills, And
did anybody, any doctor, anybody caution you against that? Did they tell you to look out for that? Did anyone? Well, actually, then we didn't. But then no one really understood the risk.
Yeah.
Back then, it was actually being embraced by the medical community.
I think that's on the label, maybe.
It's like there's a label on the football helmet that says using this helmet, hitting with your head with this helmet on may give you brain damage and possible death. And still we put it on and smashed away.
So anyway, fast forward back to having surgery in Alabama and getting pills.
Right.
And, I just have surgery. I can't move my arm. It's a very helpless, shitty position to be in. And I remember taking these pills with my mom there to help me with shit. And I was just, the pills would trigger this insane like rage and just chaos in my mind, to where I was super on edge. I was super angry. I was super, disturbed by the situation to the point where, I couldn't see outside of it. I couldn't, it was it turned into, lashing out at my mother, who was there, the only person taking care of me, because of this on the surface rage,
And so the pills consumed you, and you became acutely aware that the pills did not agree with you.
Yeah.
The pain pills.
The pain pills.
All right. Time warp. Now we're back to 2009. You were the 39th overall selection of the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2009 NFL Draft. Eben, Britton, how do you feel? Take me back to that day. Where were you? Who was there? What happens next?
We started the day on the golf course. And, I had fucking a lot to drink that day. And,
why?
I was super nervous. I think I was super nervous and wasn't allowing that. I was very wrapped up in when I was getting drafted.
Right. As we all were. I mean, as everyone was.
Yeah, we had this huge party at the local bar in Tucson. And everybody was there, and, coaches, family, friends, people were there to watch the draft. And, I showed up, I was way too drunk, I wasn't.
You were hammered when you got there?
I was hammered when I got there. I was super late. And, I kept drinking, and I didn't eat, and I kept getting angrier and more upset that I wasn't getting drafted and getting wrapped up in that shit. And finally I get drafted.
You're like, oh, you're throwing tables and stuff.
Basically.
I was looking, I was brushing up on you on the internet.
Yeah.
And there were some photos of you, man. You were a really big guy.
Yeah. I was a big dude.
You're still a big guy. But you had another 100 pounds. On top of what you wear right now.
Yeah. I wish I was able to enjoy it more looking back,
We can't enjoy those things when they're happening. You're so wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
You were on the ride.
It was a lot for me. It was a lot for me at the time. I ended up, basically I got drafted. I made all those comments. I said all that shit.
Yeah.
About, everybody's going to regret it.
Especially when you...
And then I went home, kicked the door in to the house because we didn't have the keys. Kicked the door off the hinges and collapsed in bed for like 20 hours.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and woke up to just chaos, you know.
At that point forward, it was NFL guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Had they been in contact with you in the lead up to that?
Not
Tony,
much. I had met with their
they
line coach. He worked me out.
They
Andy.
drafted you in the second, and they drafted our buddy Eugene Monroe in the first, right? Or no, same draft?
No, that's right. Eugene was, I always get this messed up. He was first round 10th overall. I was second round 39th overall.
Right. You guys, you losers who were drafted, man. The guys who weren't drafted, that's where it's at, man.
That's a tough road, man. I mean, you're right.
No, dude, all you gotta do is get into camp, really. Of course, they give a little bit of preference for their first, second guys, third, fourth, but after that, I've seen second, third round guys get cut like the year after.
Absolutely,
it happens all the time. They get it wrong, but they do give you that 1 year for sure.
Yeah,
but I've seen first round picks gone in like 3 years.
Yeah, it happens.
You got to practice every day.
Happens, yeah.
So you hopped a flight to Jacksonville.
And
did you get an apartment right away?
Pretty soon getting in there.
It was 2009, right?
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah.
The whole real estate thing had just happened.
It had dropped.
Yeah. It had collapsed.
Did you buy something?
No, I didn't. I just rented. Should have bought,
I don't know, man. I mean, how'd you spend your money when you played?
Not well.
Because a second round pick, they hand you a bag of cash and go, hey, man, welcome.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
We're only going to speak to you in one language, and that's football.
Yeah.
Any other language you'd like to learn? Sorry, not on our time. And if you talk about it here, it's a distraction. So how the fuck do we know what goes on in the real world or how to talk about it? We don't. So anyway, how did you spend your money?
I got an apartment.
Did you buy a car?
I leased a car. BMW 750 Li. It was pretty dope. It was pretty dope.
What color? Candy apple?
Black.
Candy apple black. I love that color.
Oh! Yeah, and I made a bunch of dumb purchases, like a watch and...
Well, that was the example we were seeing in the locker room is young guys just spending money on silly things.
Yeah.
And there's always someone way worse than you who's like spending way more money. It doesn't make you feel bad about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I seen gambling debts over just a trip, a one-night trip to play a game, over $100,000. Guys had to write checks.
Mm.
The rookie dinner that we were at was $26,000 bill.
Yeah, our rookie dinner was $18,000 split between Eugene and I.
Just the two of you?
Yeah.
See, we had like 5 guys in there paying that. Yeah.
But I've heard
worse. Dude, the O-line
I mean,
must have loved having you two rookies.
Oh, they loved it. They got
first and second round.
Oh,
they get everything. Because the assumption is when you're drafted high that you're going to pay for everything.
Yeah.
The higher you're drafted, the more money people think you have, so the more money they expect you to pay for shit. So in the locker room, a first-round pick, second-round pick, those guys are buying food every week. Those guys are doing all kinds of stuff. And guys stick them with bills all the time. I mean, so much wasted money over the years.
Stocking the snack drawer with like just shit, like Twinkies and candy and beef jerky and chips and shit.
We really did eat like shit when we played.
Yeah. And then we had the coffee machine. We had to buy a new coffee machine, state of the art,
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was nice. It was nice to have that.
You guys had also drafted Maurice Jones-Drew. He
came in. He was probably like 3 years older than me, 2 years older than me. Yeah, he was awesome.
Did he
was great
take
to
care
block
of?
For.
Yeah, take care of the line and stuff. So let me ask you this: as a offensive lineman, do you block harder for some people?
No, because for me it was about my work and my pride and how I looked on film.
Of course.
So I was always going balls out. And I think, that was one of the reasons maybe I didn't my body did start breaking down, was how hard I always went. That was really how I got there. It was just my intensity and how hard I would go in games and in practice. And guys, veterans would tell me that early on in my career in Jacksonville, like, hey man, you should probably chill out a little bit during practice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How long?
Or just know,
Just
get a better feel of when you need to go hard and when you can take it easy.
I had that moment, like my first couple weeks in Denver, where a veteran was like, "Relax, buddy. This is not the time for that.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to get through this.
Yeah,
we got to help each other out through these practice days sometimes.
Yeah,
because you got to know that I was on scout punt return, and we're going through some stuff, and he's on the punt team, and I'm off the ball trying to beat him, block the kick.
Yeah.
So I'm making him look really stupid when I do that.
Yeah.
Because I beat him, and then he gets yelled at.
Yeah. And he's pissed.
Yeah, he's pissed. He's a linebacker named Ian Gold. I remember. It's funny how many old memories you have with these guys, and you never see them again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. And something that's really interesting about it that I've found through this cannabis process, like going up to Toronto and doing that video with Leonard Marshall and Marvin and Grant. 3 guys, 4 generations of football between us. Never played with those guys. Even at times in my career at Arizona, hated USC with Grant.
Yeah.
It's such a brotherhood. We come together and all the stories we've all been through the battle. We've been through the war together, and it's amazing to come together and to be able to share those experiences and, have a positive look at that career, because I think coming out of your career, you can feel so much shame and depression, maybe feeling like you didn't accomplish everything you wanted to in your athletic career or, I don't know, whatever it might be,
Is that what you felt?
I felt shame when, I think I felt shame for a little while when people asked me, what are you doing? And I didn't have an answer for that. When that question was followed by, or, was preceded by, why aren't you still playing in the NFL?
Yeah.
And it's like, what? What do you mean?
Did you retire?
What the fuck does that mean? What am I supposed to be doing? But I think that's part of the process. I took my career till the fucking wheels fell off, man. I mean, my body had been through the shitter. It was time for me to be done. I was mentally unplugged from it. I was disillusioned by the system and the hierarchy and the structure of it. And I saw the business writing on the wall. A guy getting older, was going into my 7th year, had a lot of injuries, had been having less and less playing time, as younger guys came in and, the younger guys are cheaper to have around than the older vets. As you accumulate years, your minimum goes up. They're paying rookie minimums, $400,000 of 7-year vet minimums, like $850, more than double. So it becomes, it just became, I was done. I'd done everything I needed to do as a player. I had, been a starter. I'd done that in Jacksonville. I'd really, been in the shitter with injuries, with my back injury and recovered from that. Really lost my love for the game at the end in Jacksonville. Gave it one more shot in Chicago. And that, that first year in Chicago really gave me 1 year of where I found my love for the game again. And, And I really appreciated that. And then that second year in Chicago, the disillusionment really trickled back in. And it was like, you know what? I'm done.
And so now, what do you tell people when they say, what do you do? What are you doing? How do you approach that question now?
You know, what's funny is I'm doing so much shit now that I tell people different things depending on who I'm talking to and
All right.
or where I'm at that day.
Right.
You know, I'm doing we've got our podcast. I've got my CBD company, Be True Organics. I'm acting. I'm writing. I'm fucking, creating this alternative healing website, bringthehurt.com. You know, man, it's like the beautiful thing. This guy called me the other day. He's an athlete getting ready to, basically he's making the decision of whether or not he wants to retire, and
a current player?
He's current. He played last season, actually a different sport than us. And he's on the fence, and he's trying to figure out what to do.
He's a fencer?
He's on the fence.
Oh.
He's on the fence.
No.
Yeah. And, he's just trying to figure out what to do, how to make that decision. For me, I had some calls. I had the Atlanta Falcons calling me. I had the Buffalo Bills calling me to bring me in to work me out to come play for them. And the reality in my head was I couldn't even bring myself to go to the airport, let alone fly there to work out and try to make a team. That's how done I was.
But so now you're doing totally different things other than
doing
football.
Totally different things.
Right. And so
so what I was saying to this guy is that, one of the most amazing parts of this adventure coming out of your sports career is like you can create the life that you want, man. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. Figure out what you're passionate about and create that life. Create your life to be that.
But how do you create the ability to be proactive, to find your words, to go out, articulate your message, communicate with other people in a professional setting that makes them want to take a chance on you in a business way? Because you're not playing football anymore. You're not making plays on the field. How do you make plays in life? So how have you been able to kind of summon the spirit, the energy, and the kind of discipline that it takes to pursue all those things you just mentioned?
Well, I think it's a long process. And I think one thing that, I really learned I heard from you going through this process that I've used, that I think really started me on this path was writing about my experience, writing about what I'd gone through. The writing, not that everyone has to be a writer, but for me, I majored in creative writing at Arizona. That was one of the reasons I went there. I liked writing. I enjoy telling stories.
Did you want to write? What kind of stuff do you want to write?
Then I wanted to write fiction. It's turned into a lot of experiential stuff, anecdotes. And that turned into a few articles that I wrote that got published on SI.com and then Playboy. And the great thing about today with all this technology is you could get your writing out there anyway, in many forms, on many platforms.
But it's so hard to tell, though, with the internet, who's reading it, who's consuming it. The people that comment. I don't comment on things I read, and I doubt you do either.
No.
And so the people who are really like, maybe you actually want to have that conversation with, are people who are just clicking through. I don't know. But yeah,
You've got to get involved.
With what?
I found that, nothing's going to happen sitting at home feeling sorry for yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something that, I work out every day. I find a lot of my discipline, how I anchor myself into sanity, into structure, into the structure I need in my life is through my physical exercise.
And you've lost nearly 80, 90 pounds from your playing weight, right?
I've lost 90 pounds.
90.
I was 330 at the end there. Now I'm about 240.
And you were also telling me, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but that you just got some blood results from your doctor and your diet has significantly improved those.
Yes.
And that he's got a lot of all those levels that were slight concern earlier, all of them under control because you have a disciplined diet now.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that diet and how you were able to do that and what your philosophy is on that?
I've always been in tune with my food and what I eat. And, if you're having that much difficulty, I would say do one of these blood sensitivity tests. Find a doctor that'll get you a blood test where they'll take you and they'll test your blood sample against all different types of foods and actually tell you what you're sensitive to. I just found this thing that I did my rookie year. It's a blood sensitivity test. It's got all these foods on it because I'm experiencing some right now. As clean as I eat, I think you're constantly sifting your nutrition down to, the best strategy for yourself. If you pay attention, you have to pay attention and be mindful of when you eat certain things, when you drink things, what effect is that having on your body? Do you get congested? Do you get congested in your head, in your nose? Do you get congested in your chest? What's your poop like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What does your stomach feel like after you eat certain
Piling out of
foods?
the water. That's what mine's like. Poop Island. I plant a flag in it.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, man. And paying attention to these things. So for me, I've experimented with a lot of stuff. What I found is, you're never going to go wrong eating a lot of vegetables. You're not going to go wrong if you're a meat eater, sticking with, grass-fed organic meats and fish and chicken, all that stuff. Sticking the easy rule a nutritionist we had in the Jags told me was if you stick to the edges of the grocery store, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're getting produce, your whole foods, your meat, all of that stuff. And I pretty much do that. I don't eat many processed foods. I don't eat any bread. It's really about what I don't eat. I stay away from bread. I stay away from pasta. I'm realizing that unfortunately beer kind of fucks me up in a bad inflamed way. Gives me headaches. Because I'm going to just say I love beer.
I'm just going to say it.
I do. It's something about it is I've always enjoyed a good, an ice cold beer here and there, you know? Yeah. And, so there's going to be some bummers along the way, And
well,
the thing
you can't feel perfect all the time.
No,
there is something to be said about
right.
dealing with the highs and the lows.
And it's a lot about moderation. You eat well enough. I really do. I'd say I stick to a 80-20 principle. 80% of the time I'm doing is the best I can so that 20% of the time I can feel okay about having a beer, having a slice of cheesecake, whatever it might be, when I'm having those days where I'm allowing myself to have something. We're not perfect, like you said. There's going to be the nights where you dive into the freezer for a gallon of ice cream. It happens.
Yeah,
right?
It does. So the diet,
the discipline with exercise and the discipline with your food, I think that takes care of a lot of problems and takes care of a lot of the structural issues in your day.
And you obviously use cannabis as part of that disciplinary process. Do you think that cannabis makes you more disciplined or less?
I think it definitely makes you have to have discipline with the cannabis. I think because it's a very.
You think you can overdo it?
I can lean a little too heavily on it at times.
What do you tend to be like when you are doing that?
A little bit more,
withdrawn,
a little bit more,
less proactive.
a little less proactive. But that's, most of the time, 98% of the time, I'm able to, medicate in a way that absolutely works for me. And that's, I think that cannabis is one of those things that it's definitely as needed. Sometimes the body's hurting a little bit more than others. Sometimes emotionally you need a little bit more relief. You've got a little bit more depression to deal with. You need to get kicked up a notch. So, it's a balance. It's something that I've, had a lifetime relationship with that, I've got a pretty good sense of that.
Well, I want to take you back in time to a time before you ever had experienced cannabis, and you were a boy. You were just a boy in Brooklyn. You were just a boy in Brooklyn. Tell us about some memories of Brooklyn. How long did you live there?
Lived there till I was 10.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Brooklyn. Park Slope, Brooklyn. On the edge of Prospect Park. It was 12th Street. I lived on 12th Street between 8th and the Park. Beautiful brownstone. We lived in like a first floor apartment.
With your mom and dad?
Mom and dad and Gus, my brother.
Mom is a journalist and fitness instructor?
At the time she was...
That's what Wikipedia says.
At the time she was editor-in-chief or very high up at Marie Claire, I believe, a fashion magazine in the city. My dad is an artist.
Painter.
Painter.
And he played basketball in college.
Played basketball, was a D1 basketball player.
You come from an artistic/athletic family.
I do.
Which is very rare. You usually get one or the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not a lot of athletes really kind of were nurtured in that environment.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I have a lot of gratitude for that, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it created a really unique individual.
Yeah.
You who are able to kind of approach, really mindful warrior type of stuff, approach physical competition with a kind of elevated artistic lens.
Yeah.
And it's really benefit. I found, I wasn't in that, my parents weren't professional artists, but they appreciated the arts, and my siblings are artists. I was the only really, really committed athlete. My sister Janet was on the rowing team, and my brother played youth sports. But for the most part, my family was mostly thinkers.
Yeah.
But so you were raised around that, and did they encourage you to, like, were you taking instrument lessons or
my mom
instrument lessons?
My parents got divorced. Brooklyn was, it's a very I've got some dark memories there. There were some hard times there. Dealing through the divorce and that, and being a little kid in that environment. And then Mom decided to move us out to LA, and we moved out here.
Changed the lens, sunshine, palm trees, sand, and ocean. Whoosh, in the breeze. Welcome to LA, Evan. What's up, bro?
Yeah. And,
I'm just a boy from Brooklyn.
And it was tough at first. But yeah, found football freshman year. And
did you play any other sports before that?
Before that, I played baseball. As a little kid, I did basketball, soccer, karate. With my uncles, every summer, Gus and I would go up and spend the entire summer with our grandparents and our uncles. And we'd literally spend the entire day playing sports, one sport or another, shooting hoops at the park, kicking the soccer ball around. And we were playing with, at the time, my uncles were probably in their late 20s, early 30s, running around with us and not going easy on us.
Right.
And so my love of sports was really cultivated up there. That's where my sports really came in, you know. And then really with my parents and my grandmother on my mom's side, Estelle Parsons. She's a Academy Award-winning actress. She won Best Supporting Actress in the movie Bonnie and Clyde.
Amazing.
She plays Gene Hackman's wife. And I was very fortunate because I had the summers with the sports and the athletics, and it was really like training camp. And then I had, you know, this art side where we were going to plays. We'd go to the ballet. Every winter, we went to see the Nutcracker. We were always going to museums to see art with my dad. So I really was able to cultivate both appreciations, you know, and I feel like that's served me incredibly well now. And I think art goes into the healing process, you know, in the transition out. It's a very important component to that, like you've talked about, and you've really highlighted that to me. You know, how art, music, writing, whatever it might be, acting for me has been a very therapeutic experience. But yeah, man, it was interesting.
Now as a father, you have a 5-year-old?
Yep.
Sandy?
Yep.
Do you try to instill that same kind of sport/art environment for her?
We are, man. That's really happened organically without me being aware of it. Maybe that's why we're doing this podcast, because that's to bring me into, you know, being aware of this thing that's happening with Sandy as well. She's playing soccer. She's on a little kids soccer team, having a ball. But she also really loves the arts. There's this place we go to. She takes classes. It's essentially a theater class. She gets to dance. They do a little bit of everything, little singing, little, you know, dancing, getting up and performing things. She loves to draw and color. We're always doing that stuff and doing crafts. So without even realizing it, I guess it's because this is just how I operate in life and what I think life is all about. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to hand that on to her. We take her to museums all the time, try to instill that appreciation for art and beauty, which I think has depths that I haven't really even understood yet. You know, when you really get into it. Anyway.
No, man, I mean, you're speaking the truth.
Yeah.
And basically what you're doing for Sandy, you're also helping do for other athletes through things like Athletes for Care, leading the way. You know, we don't know what we're doing. We're feeling in the dark.
Yeah.
But that's what was cool about athletes finding their voices, is that all together we throw our opinions in there and it creates a mosaic, and we start to see kind of how this thing works and how we can help each other and help ourselves, you know, come out of the other side and be excellent and be mindful. You know what? Eb, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your story. Next week when we'll be back here, you'll be a host again and we'll be interviewing someone else.
Ow!
Anything you want to plug for your own line? You kind of did it, but be true.
I mean, I'm stoked on this podcast, but we don't have to plug that.
I want to plug this podcast.
Yeah, go check out BeTrueOrganics.com. Check it out. Use code word Britton10. Britton, Britton, all caps, 10. Get you 10% off on anything there. Got some great pain relief cream, a gummy and oral spray.
Oral spray.
Under the tongue. Feeling good. Ginseng, goji berry extract. Very uplifting.
What about your Twitter stuff? Or not Twitter, but
Instagram. Yeah. At EDS Britton. Check me out. I'm, building that up. Doing my thing.
Right on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
We'll see you next week on The Mindful Warrior.
Thanks for listening to the Mindful Warrior podcast, brought to you by Athletes for Care, a health and wellness resource for athletes of all ages. Don't miss out on Nate's books, Slow Getting Up and Fantasy Man. Be sure to check out BringTheHurt.com, a pain advocacy platform dedicated to alternative healing practices. Visit BeTrueOrganics.com for all of your CBD needs. Use promo code Britton, all caps 10, for a 10% off discount.